Hey everyone, it's Angela Robinson. Jerry asked me to make this video to show how to set up the Japan mechanics that I did. There's a lot of mechanics in here, so I'm going to start with the doll. I created a doll prefab, and it is in under prefabs, Japan items, doll prefab. And what is on it is that is not on the model is the rigid body, a waypoint move script, and a doll interact zone script. These were both scripts that were made by previous programmers I was able to utilize, with actually a little the doll interact script was very bare, so I added in some dynamic ability of this. It's the key to press and game to start can be none for the doll itself. I'll explain that a little bit later. But actually for the doll its key is E and hide and seek, but you can choose any key that you want. I just noticed that E was the most popular for our game, and the game to start when interacting with the doll itself is hide and seek. You would definitely need to set up the prefab for the transform here, and then the pickup radius, which is this circle wire mesh that you're seeing around here. How close do you want the people to get before interacting with it? So that's what you would need there. The capsule collider, I don't have it as a trigger, so that is the doll prefab. While I'm sitting here, this is the dragon fountain. I want to make some notes here. The dragon base was noted that it didn't have any collision, so all I did was add a collider to it. I did the mesh collider, but given the shape of it, you could probably do a box collider. The right in front of the fountain, I added an empty object with a collider. I called orb turn in, and I added created the orb turn in script. So you would need to add that empty object, and also the orb placement object, which I made as a child of the dragon statue. I was told it was supposed to go up in his mouth. This is for whenever you go and find the orb and bring it back to the doll at the fountain. It will automatically go up into the orb placement spot. So those are two things that those are again empty objects with just colliders in them. And then for the other mini games of Japan, there is catch, basketball, and find the orb. I can't play this right now because I haven't updated the player object underworld objects since the update of spawning the player, but I did utilize these placeholders here for game starters outside of hide and seek. This one to the left is the find the orb starter. So again, whatever you decide to have for the starter interaction, I used the doll interaction zone. I used the key to press as F, and of course the game to start is find the orb. And then the radius of how close you want the player to be able to interact with it. And it'll bring up the message. This one over here is generalized catch the ball game. There's several catch places, or what I called throw zones, throughout my testing. So this one, if you start the game from here, it will pick a random throw zone to go to, and I use the key to press for E, but make sure the game to start is catch. So these throw zones, if you look it's all the red areas here that you'll see. So let's go to this one here. So each throw zone, although if you look at the prefab that it's on, it's got done off the doll hide zone. Again, this is something that someone else made, a prior programmer made. I'm utilizing it. So I made utilizing that script, but so I made my own. I haven't dropped it down to be a prefab. If you guys want to use it as a prefab, you just need to drag and drop it down. But I did add the starter item here as a child to it, and also what I call possession points. This needs to be on the area so that it works for the intended of the ball acting like it's trying to decide where to land. So the parent just has the doll hide zone. The catch starter has the doll interact zone here of E and catch. So whenever they start it at this one, it will always be thrown in this area. And the red area that you're seeing here is only in the scene view. In game, if you want the character to see the bounds of where to go, you should click this here to show bounds, so that when they start it from this interaction, a area will actually show up, either red or blue, depending on if you have a material created or not. I just made a random boundary material that's red, but if there's no material in here, then it will automatically be blue. And I believe that's all. The possession points here are, you have to make sure that they have the possession point script so that we can get them in the script that does the full mechanics of the game. Another game would be the basketball game. This is prefabs with nested prefabs. The basket itself is a prefab that I created, which you can make to just that, or but it's also a child of the main game, which is this whole area, the red area here. So nothing on the parent, just empty game object as the parent. The game area, the red shaded area here, is the doll hide zone. Again, if you want the player to see the bounds of the game, click show bounds here. The basket prefab, I have the script show basket on the parent of the basket prefab. This is just the model of the basket, and this is an empty object, which is the box collider as a trigger, and the script too close, and another empty object of a box collider with trigger of win basket. And then simple sphere as a ball with grabbable and rigid body. Make sure that you do a drag on here, otherwise it'll just keep rolling forever when dropped. And I have a respawn empty object respawn point, so that if the ball ever gets outside of this bounds, it will respawn to this spot again, so the player can easily get to it. So these when and too close are these square wireframes that you're seeing here. I had to make this show one, which is on the main basket prefab, really tall because you can throw the ball up really high, and that's the trigger of respawning the ball. The too close is the smaller one. That triggers on if you get too close to that basket, the basket will actually disappear. You have to back up to make it reappear. And the win is just the trigger for that is inside the basket, so that if you make the ball in the basket, you win the game. And again, it also has a starter here, and that has the doll interact zone with, I chose the key press to B. The game to start would be basketball. So those are a lot of the mini games. The main mechanic is this right here. I created a new empty object. It's Japan, called Japan Mechanics Game Manager, or GM. So this is a secondary game manager, not the main one, but it does have a reference to the main game manager, I believe. No, I guess this one doesn't, but some of the others do have references to the game manager. But you want to make sure when you add this that the mini game is defaulted at none, that you reference the mask enemy, the doll. I believe it will find it here, but you can also reference, you can click and drag any of these, and the player location and doll start position, those are public. It was mainly for me, they were public for debugging, but I left them public for you in case you wanted to specifically put where you want the doll start position to be. But that again is another just empty object where the doll is sitting here on the fountain. And the hide and seek, the secret doors, I did have to make, because in the actual scene there aren't doors / walls, so I just made cubes, called them secret doors. I did make a prefab for it. You can replace the mesh or at any time, but it has nothing on the let me do this one. Nothing on, yeah. Okay, yeah, nothing on the main one. We have a door object that has waypoint move and waypoint move back. This waypoint move back is when I made slight variances of the waypoint move. And open and closed. So on here, under door objects, you'll see door joy open. That needs to be on the door object child. And then we have open and close spots. Let's take a look at it here. So this is where the door would be when it's at the open position, and this is where it would be at the closed position. So you do need to have this script though on a empty game object under the door object. So okay, I believe, this jump point here is actually an empty object. I put a sphere mesh on it just so that I could see it with testing, but it's meant to be an empty object. And this is actually just the point of far enough up in the sky where the doll can go to first before choosing the hiding place that it goes to. So that's where the doll goes to before deciding, and that is just the spawn points for the doll. Right there. Those were already set up in the normal scene, so I just copied them over, but it goes up to that spot up there in the sky, and then it chooses randomly one of these spots and it goes to it. So the player can actually see it go up and then go in a direction so they can see that. So the other mechanic I put in was the animated katana wall. Let's see. So when you put it in, you need to make sure that off of my prefab, I believe the katana wall is not active at first. It doesn't become visible until you actually pick up the arcane object. But the thing to note here is the animated katana wall has all of the katanas need to have a waypoint move script. There is a start position for the whole thing, and then there's a main end position or individual end positions for each end position of the swords themselves. So it will actually, when it spawns, when it spawns the whole thing up here. And if you want the whole thing to slam down all swords together, leave it as is. When you put it in here, you do need to make sure that there's reference to the start position and end position and the katana wall. But the swords here, if you want the swords to move individually after it's spawned, like that, then you will need to click the move swords checkbox there, and you can choose the speed of how fast you want the swords to move. So now I do believe that is the last thing on the Japan mechanics. Thank you.